What's in a question? Maybe just about everything important. A smart and sharp question should strike up a more engaging conversation. So let's talk a little bit about which countries have the strongest passports in the world. Diane joins us in the studio earlier than usual. Good morning.
Good morning.
Live show in case our listeners had
that was crazy.
no idea. Again, I apologize. Sometimes glitches, things that we can't control.
So whenever this happened, I cannot imagine being in your place. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel your heart pounding?
No, I don't anymore.
No?
Because I think that doesn't help the situation anymore.
That's true.
I mean, on a good day, and today apparently is a good day, I'm just like, okay, remain calm. It happens. Just talk.
Right. That's so... I can't imagine myself in that.
Just talk.
Right, just talk.
If you're nervous, let the listeners know that this is anxiety-inducing. Call it a day. I think they'd understand.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so excited to talk about this today.
Yes.
It's all about the travel.
Yeah, it's all about the travel.
Right.
And because we've been deprived so much in the last 2 years, I do think even this conversation that arises rather regularly excites us a great deal.
Of course. Just thinking about it.
Yeah. So the question of the day is what?
So question, do you have a strong passport?
There's an official ranking out there.
Right. So a passport is a key to traveling abroad, of course. However, some passports are considered to be stronger than others. The world's most powerful passports are those that offer the greatest travel freedom, of course.
Sure.
So those are that allow the holder to enter most countries easily without any entry requirements such as visas.
So visa waiver programs and things like that. And that's how we gauge.
Right. How many visa waiver programs does the country hold?
Exactly.
Right.
So there is apparently a quarterly, that's really frequent. I thought it would
quarterly,
be annual.
Yeah.
Quarterly updated research that shows which passport is actually the strongest at that point in time.
Right. So there's an index called the HPI, which stands for Henley Passport Index. This index is the original authoritative ranking of all world's passports according to the number of destinations their holders can access without a prior visa. So the index is based on exclusive data from the International Air Transport Association, or IATA, which holds the largest and most accurate travel information database, and then it's enhanced by the research team.
Okay, so there you go. They do it pretty extensively and regularly, so it's pretty trustworthy. And before unveiling the results, who's number one?
Wait for it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the methodology first, because how they conduct their research and how the rating process is conducted is also important.
Right, so the HPI compares the visa-free access of 199 different passports, top 227 travel destinations. If no visa is required, then a score with a value 1 is created for the passport. The same applies if you can obtain a visa on arrival, a visitor's permit, or an electronic travel authority when entering the destination. On the other hand, where a visa is required or a passport holder has to obtain a government-approved electronic visa or e-visa before departure, a score with a value 0 is assigned. So this also applies if you need pre-departure government approval for a visa on arrival. Then the total score for each passport is equal to the number of destinations for which no visa is required with a value 1.
Okay.
And the index assumes the following. It assumes that the passport is valid, of course. Assumes that the passport is normal rather than diplomatic, emergency, or temporary. The passport holder is an adult citizen of an issuing country traveling alone rather than in a tourist group. The passport holder meets all the basic requirements for entry, for example, holding a hotel reservation or having proof of sufficient funds. And also, if the passport holder has had all the necessary inoculations or vaccinations. So because we are traveling in the pandemic, and many others to rule out any other variables that might have an effect on the results.
That's pretty thorough.
Yeah, and the list went on, but then I just stopped here because I cannot do all of them.
It would require 20 minutes on the clock, which is your entire segment. Yeah, you were going to do
today.
it.
I mean, which I had today. Like,
this is true.
If I had known.
No, we would lose our listeners,
Right.
Diane. It's really thorough. It's my big takeaway.
Right.
And it's reliable, it seems. So basically, the HPI ranks a passport highly if it allows a holder to visit many countries with any entry criteria, including passport only, having that electronic travel authorization or ETA system, or issuing that visa on arrival.
Right. So in a nutshell, the index ranks passport according to the number of destinations holders can enter without applying for a visa in advance. No prerequisites for entering the country mean a strong passport.
Aha.
Right.
All right. So now, the moment you'd all been waiting for.
Right.
Tell us the results. Which passport holder has the most freedom to roam abroad as of now?
So in 2022, the latest research, it said the most powerful passports in the world in terms of travel freedom are the Japanese and Singapore passports, according to the index.
Did you want a drum roll?
Yes,
I missed my
I wanted
cue.
that.
Oops.
A passport issued by Japan or Singapore allows the holder to enter 192 different countries and territories without having to get a visa in advance.
192 countries.
Right, so they looked at 199 different territories, so 192 is really high.
I was going to say, which 7 countries can't they enter? I feel like it would have a tricky economy, unstable government, something like that.
Germany and South Korea followed, are tying for the second place.
Oh.
Passports issued by these countries grant visa-free travel to 190 destinations around the globe. So just 2 countries less.
One has to be North Korea. Okay.
Right, for
Okay.
South Korea, yes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know which one's for Germany.
Right. So European Union countries make up the bulk of the top-ranked passports. Finnish, Italian, Luxembourgish, and Spanish passports share the third place, while Austrian, Danish, Dutch, French, and Swedish passports tie for the fourth.
Oh.
And French, Irish, Portuguese, and British passports are co-ranked on fifth.
You know, just the fact that there are so many co-rankings, and frankly, there's not a big difference between first, second, and third,
Right.
fourth places, respectively. I think it is a sentiment, or maybe even an echo of kind of a global world we're living in.
Right.
It benefits, these countries to take in more tourists and allow these visa-free travel for at least an extended amount of period, 3 months usually.
Right.
And it benefits their local economy.
Right, 90 days to
Yeah.
freely travel.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a lot if you think about it, because when's the last time you took 3 months off work to go somewhere else?
That is very true. I've never used all the times, all the dates that I've given. 90 days.
90 days.
No.
I don't think I have either. Any listeners? And what job do you have? Let
Right.
us know. Okay, so what about the United States? Surprisingly not at the top 4.
Not at the top 4. It's among the top 10 passports,
Oh.
placing on the 6th. So the top 10 also includes those issued by the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. There are relatively few countries with visa requirements for Americans. US passport holders can visit 186 destinations visa-free. Similarly, there are few visa requirements for British citizens with no visa required in advance for 187 countries and territories. Meanwhile, Australian and Canadian passports are tied as the 7th strongest passports in the world, allowing access to 185 destinations without a visa. So there's not a lot of differences between the countries.
Right, I was going to say, like 185 sounds like plenty. I don't know. I
Right.
mean, unless you have a really specific case, I
Yeah.
feel like 185, 192.
Right.
Is there a big difference? Now, this is a point of discussion, I think, worth going to or turning our attention to. Which country has then the weakest passport in the world?
So according to the HPI, Afghanistan has the weakest passport in the world when it comes to freely traveling.
Okay.
The index places Afghanistan at the bottom of the list in 112th place. A passport issued by Afghanistan allows the holder to enter only 26 countries and territories without applying for a visa in advance. So it's very limited.
Oh, that's a big difference now.
Right. Of these, many still require the travelers to apply for a visa on arrival.
Okay.
Iraqi passports are only just above those issued by Afghanistan in the HPI rankings, allowing entry to 28 destinations without getting a visa prior to the trip. Syria, Pakistan, and Yemen round out the bottom 5 in 2022 with 29, 31, and 33 visa-free destinations, respectively.
I mean, it means that they can apply for a visa visa and travel. Just
Right, but I
not
think that would be that sounds like a
process.
difficult and tricky process,
and
right?
a lengthy one
Yes.
too. Now there's another separate index that goes even deeper than just visa issuance and traveling visa free. Yeah.
Right. So there's another index called Nomad Passport Index.
I love it.
I love the name Nomad Passport Index.
It's so funny because
Right.
nomad doesn't have originally a really good connotation if you
Right.
think about it.
But now-
Aimless and lost, but I
Right.
mean now I feel like it sounds like I have all the freedom in the world.
It's very romantic to think about it, right? Nomad.
All right, so
Being
this
a
is
nomad.
the Nomad Passport Index. What
So
does
it's
it
another
measure?
index. So it adds taxation, global perception, ability to obtain dual citizenship, and personal freedom into its scoring on top of how free you can travel to other countries.
Okay.
For example, U.S. and Canadian passports are similar in terms of travel strength. However, if you're American, you're subject to taxes no matter where you live. And so those two passports should not be ranked next to each other. So that when it comes to tax, U.S. and Canadian passports can differ.
It's really interesting because
Yeah.
when I held a U.S. residency, I had to report taxes to two countries,
Right.
South Korea and the United States. I learned so little back then that they didn't really require me to pay a lot.
Right.
But that process is very difficult
Yes.
and expensive.
So that brings U.S. down a little bit when it comes to this Nomad Passport Index.
Canada outdoing U.S. once
Yeah.
more. It's funny. I have so many Canadian friends in Korea, and they make it a point to say Canada
They're better?
is better, and I'm like, this is so childish. But I don't know why we intend to do that. It has nothing to do with patriotism.
I mean, Canada and U.S.
Yeah.
and Australia
Yeah.
and New Zealand are
Yes.
two countries, the four countries that are a little bit
Competitive? Interesting. All right, to each
Right.
their own. All right, let's explain for our listeners the methodology of measuring the so-called Nomad Passport Index. Oh, they'll never get old. It's fun to say.
Right. So 5 factors were evaluated with different weights. Visa-free travel, which looks at the ability to travel easily, took the biggest part with 50%. Then taxation of citizens came next with 20%, looking at tax reach and restrictions on passport holders. The third criteria was global perception, which examined how countries are viewed around the world by 10%. Then it was dual citizenship, meaning the ability to hold dual citizenship from forbidden like China to freely allowed like Canada
Okay.
with 10%. The last one was personal freedom, which includes press freedom, government surveillance, and mandatory military service with 10% as well.
Okay, so now I'm excited to ask the Nomad Passport Index.
Right.
Who is crowned supreme?
So the best nomads are Luxembourg. So Luxembourg was ranked as the top passport in the world for aspiring global citizens.
Interesting.
Right. So after Luxembourg, Sweden followed by a close margin, and Ireland came in the third place. Surprisingly, South Korea ranked 12th place, being tied with Denmark, Austria, Germany, and France.
Can I be honest with you? That's a lot higher than I was expecting.
I know exactly. Like seeing all these like dual citizenship, like press free, military service,
Taxation of
Taxation,
citizens.
right.
We're all about equaling out or leveling out
Right.
the wealth essentially. So that could be a point of contention.
Yeah, I mean-
mandatory military service.
I mean, exactly.
Yeah.
That's going to bring down the score a little bit, but then we're still on the 12th place with Denmark and Austria and Germany and France, which is relatively high.
Not so bad. How does it compare to other Asian countries?
So this puts South Korea in the second place among Asian countries, coming after Singapore, which was placed on the 9th of the overall passport index. So in this index, nearly 85% of the places in the top 30 list are in Europe.
Who's surprised?
Right. I think it's really easy to become a nomad in European countries. Like it's easy, like you can
But look
travel.
at the cluster of European countries, right? I mean, I think I totally understand why in this index, Europe would be supreme.
Right. I mean, I cannot imagine just like on the weekend,
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like going to somewhere else.
I feel like going to Italia.
Right. Italy weekend trip.
My cousins who live in Spain say that all the time to me, and it's kind of annoying.
Do they really do that? Like,
Yes, and with their two
weekend trip
kids.
to Italy?
Not during the pandemic, but I mean, they do like weekend trips to France because France is really close to
Right.
Spain, and of course they go to Italy.
They drive or they take the
sometimes
plane?
they drive, sometimes they take the plane, sometimes a train. It
Right.
depends.
I
Train
mean-
rides are so affordable.
I mean, that makes sense.
And the kids love train
Of
rides.
course, they love it.
So yeah, okay, so lots of nomads in Europe.
Right. So what's notable is that countries like Malta, Iceland, and Slovakia, places that people usually don't often talk about in terms of passport strength, actually hold their own against powerhouses such as Italy and Germany. So they have higher power.
Okay.
They also score above countries such as the United Kingdom, Australia, and the US. So if you hold Malta passport or Iceland passport, you can become a nomad easily.
I've forgotten all about the strength of the passports. All that's remaining is Nomad Passport Index.
Luxembourg topping the list.
Yeah, is this new to you, listeners? Give us your 2 cents.
Right.
Thank you so much, Diane, for an insightful conversation.
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. We have science and IT news coverage coming up with Eugenie next.